a pretty good turnout for the rain. We're going to be out in the rain where farmers were used to rain, right? We didn't have enough this spring. We had too much through the summer, and we had a pretty good dry spell there for a while. I'm not going to go into a lot of pasture management today. I'm going to go in a little bit probably, but I had requests to go into more what makes Wilson Land and Cattle tick, what makes us successful in what we do here on the farm. So I'm going to try and go into that a little bit deeper than what I usually do. We're a fairly transparent farm. I try not to hide anything from anybody. I won't share my income with you, but you know, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have as far as transparency wise goes. If you watch my YouTube channel, anybody here subscribe to the YouTube channel? Pretty good. A little louder. Can you turn it up? Or is it up the whole way?
I think it is.
Okay. Could we move it to like the center? Hopefully it won't.
It's not bad.
Well, no, I understand. So we're going to go into what Wilson Land and Cattle does to be successful, basically. The farm's 220 acres. I don't know if Hannah went into this, but I'm going to do it again just in case you did. Our pastures, we have 145 acres of pasture total. Our forest land, 70 acres. Our livestock, our cattle, equine, sheep, honeybees, poultry, and hogs. We're going to start, we used to just feed out feeder hogs. We're going to be farrowing hogs here on the farm this coming year. We have 6 hogs coming from northern Wisconsin. They'll be here November 1st. Our approach, we do adaptive grazing management. Not everything is done the same every time on a farm. We don't want to have a recipe on our rotational grazing systems. We need to switch it up. We need to rest fields longer. We need to shorten the rest on some fields. We have fields here that we've grazed 4 times this year, actually 5 times. We've had fields that have not been grazed yet this year. We have about 20 acres that have not been grazed here on the farm yet this year. And those will be stockpiles. Low input is the main focus here on the farm, because a lot of farms, they're putting too many inputs into a small farm, and the small farm is not making any money. And that's what I try to focus on, the low input. And the low input and the conservation part of it go hand in hand. If you start putting low input in it, it really pairs well with conservation. And on average, our cattle and sheep are out grazing over 300 days a year. And that just didn't happen one year. We're going to look at those numbers here in a minute. But it's something that can be repeated over and over and over. So it has been proven that we can keep our livestock out there longer. This here is an overview on the farm. If you go clear to the east, that's from the east to the west. There's the pond out there at the road, and then you can see the garage there where we're at right now. And that goes clear back over into that corner. And the cows there are in a cover crop field. I was hoping to update that, but my drone remote kind of died on me, so I didn't get that updated. Hopefully they get it sent back to me here soon before all the leaves go. I want to do flyovers over the woods and add some of those to the YouTube channel. You can see the arrow here, that's where you're at. And on your far right, that's the farm over there. On the other side of the road, we do have a confinement area, and that's something that we should have never built it. We should have learned how to graze before we built it. It was a huge mistake. So if you guys are thinking about heavy use areas, I suggest that you learn how to graze before investing all that money into it. This building here is used less than 2 weeks a year now that we've learned what we're doing. And we're not out making mud pits. It's just a learning process. And you can see here we have all the pastures divided down. Actually, there's another fence right in here. We have everything divided down, and then we have water. The biggest problem on farms when I go out and do consulting work is water. Water is the biggest problem. How do we get our watering systems in so we can keep the livestock out there where they belong? So trying to get your water set up is going to be one of the biggest deals. But like these watering points, these are all hydrants. We use those hydrants in the wintertime as well. And there's no electric run to them. There's a valve that I developed. You can see it out there. I made a YouTube video on it. You can build your own valve. But we're able to keep the cows or sheep or whatever at these hydrants for their water to keep those nutrients distributed across the farm. And I have friends in Saskatchewan, Canada, that has used that valve to -35 with no electricity. It's cheaper to pump water than to heat water. This here's the east side. That's the home farm. That's what we call it, the home farm. And then we refer to this one as the other farm. For whatever reason, I don't know. Whenever I come over here, I go to the other farm, or farm 2. But it has more grazing acres on it than the home farm. And then we have our lease property. We have no interior fence. We have no water. We have a perimeter fence, and that's pretty much it. And this here is probably one of the best grazable pastures because we can switch things up, make things different every time we graze it. And, if we need to, one of the things here on the farm, whenever we're out grazing, the first thing that we look at, we don't care about the livestock, the first thing we look at, how can we improve that soil? What do we need to do with our employees, our livestock? How can we improve the soil? And this here gives us a lot of different ways that we can graze it. A lot of times we'll graze it this way. We don't let the livestock in the woods. Nothing goes in that woods. We'll graze it this way. However, we're going to the lease property on Sunday, I believe, and we're going to split it down. This year we're going to make longer, narrower paddocks. The field down, or the farm down there is relatively poor, and it has a lot of deer pressure on it, so we've got to figure something out. Is your farm a ranch, a business? That's one of the things for us. I don't want to have to work off the farm in order to keep the farm sustained. I want the farm to be able to pay for itself and take care of us. So that's one of the ways we need to kind of look at it. It's a business. If you're trying to make money, then it's a business. What are the 7 most expensive words in business or farming? Anybody? I have always done it that way. That's the 7 most expensive words in farming. And it's true. I've made my mistakes many times here. If I've known then what I know today, I would have a lot more money than what I have now. Because I've made a lot of mistakes. 10 businesses that failed to adapt. Blockbuster, Enron, BlackBerry. BlackBerry was pretty popular. I mean, that was the phone to have whenever they first come out. But they ignored touchscreen technology. so they went out of business. Sears and Roebuck, they didn't want to keep up with the times like Walmart, and basically they just kind of faded away. I'm sure you probably remember it. They used to be one of the best stores there ever was back 40 years ago. Kodak, they developed the digital camera, but they didn't want to have competition with their film cameras, so they put it on the back burner, and somebody else actually put it on the front. Pan Am, they're out of business. MySpace, Yahoo, Polaroid, that's another camera company that failed to adapt. And Xerox, everybody knows Xerox. They had engineers that made their own inventions. They denied they shunned the directors, their own directors shunned their inventions, and other companies picked it up and took off with it, and it basically closed because they didn't want to adapt. They didn't want to move forward into the future. And this basically comes down to mindset. Anybody here switch from making hay to feeding hay? Or buying hay, I'm sorry. Okay, we have just a couple. That was one of the hardest things for me to do. You have making hay, you're storing all the hay back you can for the entire winter, and all of a sudden you sell all your equipment and you're buying hay. That is something really hard to wrap your head around. It really is. And another one of the mindsets that I had that kind of pushed me along, we used to grow row crops. Corn was our main one. We'd pick it and I'd haul it back, put it in the crib, grind it, feed it to the cows, haul it out in manure. So when's the best time to sell a corn picker? Right before picking season, right? So I tell my wife, let's sell the corn picker. She says, okay. I put it up, and good thing she's a city girl, because she was in kind of denial in this part. So we put it up, we sold it right before picking season, and I had 10 acres of corn. She says, what are you going to do with the corn? I says, I'm going to graze it. So that's what we did. We grazed it. We had really nice corn that year. We got 619 grazing days to the acre. So it boils down to mindset. You know, if somebody comes up with an idea, try it small scale before you go full on with it. You know, I don't recommend anybody to just outsell all their haymaking equipment and go buying. You need to gradually, progressively move. It's like moving cows 4 times a day. If you're going to continuous grazing system and you go to 4 times a day moving your cows, you're going to get discouraged and quit. So do it in baby steps. We're working off basic principles. A lot of times I'll hear, well, that works on your farm, but it won't work on mine. We've applied basic principles from areas like South Africa, New Zealand, the West, out where the deserts are. It's just basic principles. It's context. You know, how can you take those principles and, you know, if you're looking at things here on the farm today, and, you know, I want you to look at them as, how can I take that to my farm and apply it? Okay? Just don't have the mindset, well, it works here, but it won't work there. It will work at your farm in the right context. In the low input, we got to set goals. You know, go home and write a whole bunch of goals down. Just take a piece of paper, start writing different goals. Keep it simple. A lot of people argue with me whether or not it's simple or not here on the farm. It's a lot simpler than what it used to be. A lot simpler. I have, my main tractor is a 50 horsepower tractor. I put less than 8 hours a year on that 50 horsepower tractor. And that is a huge deal whenever diesel fuel is over $5 a gallon. You need to take good records, and whenever you take those records, if you can, pair them with photographs that you've taken on the farm. It's really, really nice to be able to reference the photographs from 5 or 6 or 10 years ago to what you have in those particular fields, or even your livestock. My cow herd is not the cow herd that I started with, or we started with in 2008. It's not the same cow herd. So, you know, we've evolved. So in your records, try and keep it low stress. You know how stressful it is whenever you got 25 acres of hay down, and you go out to rake it, your rake breaks down, and they're calling for rain that evening. It's pretty stressful. You can lose a crop of hay real quick. And then we used to wrap a lot of hay, and wrapping that hay, I would work, 18 hours a day? Mm-hmm. The kids were babies. They were still in their car seats. She would come help me wrap hay, and the kids would be in the car, in their car seats with the hatch up and the heater going, so we could get the job done. No more of that. I go to bed at 7 o'clock and I get up at 2:30. So, well, whenever I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go to my computer and I start researching. That's how I figured a lot of this stuff out. I'll research, I'll plan, I'll try and figure, I'll chew on things until it gets daylight. As soon as it gets daylight enough to come move the cows, that's the first thing I do. So I get a few hours in the morning to try and figure things out. And I talked about diesel fuel. A lot of folks have seen it. We have a lot of new faces today, so I thought it was worth sharing. In 2011, we had 120 grazing days on a 7 to 14-day rotation. I thought that was rotational grazing. It's not. And we can only handle 45 animal units. An animal unit is 1,000 pounds of animal, no matter if it's 1,000-pound sheep or 2 500-pound feeders. 1,000 pounds of animal is 1,000 pounds of animal. So that is your one animal unit. We spent 3,500, or we bought 3,500 gallons of diesel fuel. What would that cost? Anybody got a calculator? Type that up. 5 gallons times 3,500. What is it? $17,000. Okay, we got $17,000. We only had beef cattle back this time, so $17,000 plus $2,400. What? And then add $26,000 for fertilizer. What's that come to? Pretty close to $50,000. Are these 45 animal units in a cow-calf operation going to pay for all that and pay for your time? It's not happening. And being in business and not wanting to have to work off the farm, we started selling everything. And actually, I have a Truex grain drill, and I sold it last night, I believe. I haven't told you that yet.
Good morning.
I sold it last night. The guy, I believe, is coming from Kentucky to get it. And Conservation District has a drill that I can rent for $12 an acre if I need it. In 2016, 294 grazing days, moving the cows from 2 to 9 times a day. And in the past, I was figuring it out, in the past 10 years or so, those cows have moved easily over 10,000 times into new paddocks over the last 10, 11 years. We still rotate our cows twice a day when there's 30 inches of snow on the ground. But the best thing in 2016, we doubled the animal units. We bought 200 gallons of diesel fuel, and that's pretty much followed. The diesel fuel has kind of followed through on from year to year since that, because we're putting in our side-by-sides. And that's more of a breakdown. But 9-year average, our 9-year grazing average, 306 days. 40% of the farm is considered wetland soil. So it is replicable. If you look in 2014 to 2022 and average those 306 days. So it can be done. There's a lot of learning to do. We're big on biodiversity. That's kind of what I'm working on now, is biodiversity. How can I make the farm diverse? Why would we want biodiversity on the farm? It's more resilient. You can bounce back from, say you have a major drought through the summertime. You can bounce back easier from that major drought if you are diverse. And our diversity includes our livestock. You've seen the amount of different livestock we have. Our cow herd's the smallest it's been in since 2014, I believe, something like that. Cows high, cow prices are high. We sell our cows high, we buy low. But we don't buy cows at the closed herd. It's been a closed herd for the last 5 years, I believe. So we'll slowly build our herd back up to where it was. And my daughter tells me that she's going to have 120 sheep, so that means I have less cattle. She keeps reminding me that she's going to have 120 sheep, and she should hit that mark next year. So that will be a good thing. The prairies. There was prairies here on this in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, about 650 to 700 years ago. How they know that, I have no idea. It might be made up, who knows. The remarkable thing is the productivity. This field down right beside here where our vendors are set up, and I want everybody to go out and visit vendors, shake hands with them, visit with them. They made a special trip to come see us, so go see your vendors that are out here. The field down below here, 3 or 4 years ago, we took dry matter yields. When was that, Tim? Where'd Tim go?
Well, at least 3 years.
It's been about 3 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. We did dry matter yields in that field. That field yielded 24,000 pounds of dry matter. So that's 12 tons. And we recycle back into the field. We take half, leave half on an average, and we found that pretty much true. It come up to 52% of all the dry matter yields that we've done. It comes up to, we take about 52%, and we leave about 48% on average. So we harvested 6 tons of dry matter off that field with no lime, no fertilizer. And that's primarily a native field. It makes rich soil. You want biodiversity, deep root systems. Why would we want deep root systems? These are my roots. The knots are the nodes for our nitrogen-fixing clover. Do we want root systems like this, or do we want root systems like this? Which one's going to soak up more water and more nutrients? The big root system. So that's one of the things that we target whenever we're grazing. If we look at Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania prairies average about 126 species of plants. West Virginia 144, and Ohio 197 in the native prairies. There's actually 11 native prairies left in the state of Pennsylvania. One of them, I guess, if we look at the root systems, I've kind of got ahead of myself here a little bit. If we look at all the root systems, that's pretty much what the root systems look like. And then we have our Kentucky bluegrass that's clipped every week in our lawns. And those root systems, if you dig them up, they're short. Tyson, how far did you chase roots down yesterday? You leave? He was telling me he chased roots down
3 feet, I think.
Yeah, he chased roots down 3 feet yesterday out in the soil pits that you're going to see later on.
Basically, that's all the further we dug.
That's all the further you dug. So those root systems went a lot deeper. You know, this here replicates a pasture if we clip it or overgraze it. Our root systems are short. One thing to keep in mind here while you're on the farm, there has not been a field clipped here since 2011. Nothing's been clipped. If you have any questions, please, I'm interruptible. If we look at the Jennings Prairie, I don't expect you to read all this, but this here's the species, it's a Jennings Prairie. Okay? They have about 125, I believe, is what the natives. And then if you count all the species, they're at about 200 and something. This is Wilson land cattle. Inside our fences. We have 178 species that I've identified so far. I have at least 4 more grasses to go to that I have not identified. And we keep counting. I keep adding species daily. I haven't been doing this a long, long time, so we're adding species daily. We have 178 species here on the farm. One of the great things of it is the livestock eat them all. Bull thistles. You go out there and look at B119 in the pasture field, that is a bull thistle eating cow. Okay? We eat common milk, we eat, you name it. If it's in the field, we're gonna graze it, and the cows are gonna eat it. They're in endophyte infested fescue. No rejection. Fescue is a hard one for a lot of folks to graze. You can see out there, we're working at trying to change the species a little bit. I don't want all the endophytes gone, but I'd like to have some other species in there. So that's why they're being grazed the way they are today.
Hey Russ,
Yes.
do you cull for livestock that reject certain plants? Is that one of your metrics?
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, yeah. I'll call for that. I call for all kinds of stupid things. Like if a cow eats too many minerals, I'll get rid of her. She looks at me cross-eyed, I'll get rid of her. The big things that I really call for is fertility naturally. And we're actually shortening our breeding season down to 45 days next year. We're at 60 days now. The ones that don't breed in 45 days, we're going to be shipping them next year. So we'll have probably some open cows if anybody wants to buy them, which I won't sell them to you for breeding stock. That's not how we operate here. Heat tolerance. If they can't be out in full sun at 97 degrees and they're panting and they're stressing, I don't need them here. I don't want to take a whole herd back to a shade for heat stress. So we have called heat stress. We actually had a cow out in the field one time. She heat stressed so bad, and it was only about 78 degrees. She heat stressed so bad we had to take a garden hose and hose her down for like an hour or two to get her on her feet so we could get her on a trailer and ship her. And whenever we shipped her, she weighed 1,927 pounds. She was a big old girl. The cow average out there now, our average cow size is 1,007 pounds we weighed them. And it used to be they're around 1,500 pounds. On the farms, we need to identify our resources. What resources do we have available? A lot of times on the small farm, we underutilize a lot of resources. And I realize that we are still underutilizing a lot of our resources. Diversity. Diversity is key to weathering the storm. Like I say, our cow numbers are low, so we're not going to have as much revenue from the cow numbers, but our sheep numbers are growing. We have some other things that we're working on, which I'll show you here. Are you producing quality? If I sell you a bred cow, she's going to be bred, she's going to have a calf. If she doesn't, we're going to make it right. We always preg test before we ship them. If I ship or sell you a cow with a calf, it's going to do well for you. It's not something that I'm going to send to the sale barn or make hamburger out of. So that's my added value. What are some of your resources? We work in the garage, my son and I, and Emmy, she helps too, but we build things in the shop. It's a lot of fun, huh, bud? Yeah, we joke around and have all kinds of fun whenever we're working in the shop. And those valves back there. Walker helped me build the valves that I have for sale back in the corner. Quality animals. We do sell a little bit of native cut plant seed, just little packets. Timber, a lot of timber in this area has been high graded. We don't have the goats anymore, and I finally found a flock of goats that I think might work here on the farm. We'll see. Livestock, timber, in-shop work, native seeds, and new for this year, I don't have our mushroom logs. We inoculate and sell mushroom logs as well. We're working on a tree nursery. As a family, we worked together and we planted, 2,000, 3,000 seeds. Some of those honey locusts we have in the back, we planted from seed. There's 2 apple trees back there. Emmy helped me graft those. We had a good time grafting. Just her and I, we sat in my office and we listened to music and bench graft 200 apple trees. We're going to do 300 this year, aren't we?
Yep.
About half of those will be for sale. Our livestock, look at that list. That's very, very, very diverse. Cattle aren't quite bringing as much income in. The sheep will bring more in. The chickens, we try to steer away from chickens as much as we can, but our customers really like our chickens, so it's really hard. Guineas, we hatch as many guinea geese as we can and sell them. Hogs are coming back into the system. Walker's the hog expert. If you have any hog questions, ask him. He's the hog expert. And Emmy's the sheep expert, naturally. We have the honeybees and donkeys. We ride the donkeys, but we also breed and sell the donkeys, and we use them for guard animals.
How about animal units per animal? Animal units per animal. Sheep versus cow versus donkey versus whatever.
10 sheep that weigh 100 pounds is 1 animal unit.
You know, what's your goal for your farm, animal unit wise?
How many animals do we put per acre? This is how I figure it out. We have 1 animal unit to approximately where our acreage is a little bit high because we're low in cattle numbers, but we're at 1 animal unit per 2 acres for over 310 days. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, and your goal for your farm, how many animal units of sheep do you want, and how many animal units of cattle do you want, or donkeys?
I don't necessarily have a goal for any specific one, because the numbers are always fluctuating. The sheep numbers are always going up and down, the cow numbers are always going up and down, and the same with the donkeys as well.
You're increasing your sheep.
Yes, yes, we're increasing the sheep, but I don't know if you know much about sheep. The sheep market's kind of tanked, so but I've seen that before. The sheep market is volatile if you're selling on commodities. A year and a half ago, we sent a ram lamb and a ewe lamb, and the take-home check was over $600. That's with all the trucking and the fees and all that. We brought a check home for $600. I would safely bet that if you sent 2 lambs today to the sale barn, you'd be lucky to bring a check home for $200. Lucky.
Russ, can you talk a little bit about how you taught your cattle to eat all the species?
Oh, how we taught the cows how to eat all the species of plants. Out there, the cow units, we go animal units per acre, or how many pounds of animals do we have per acre. It's pretty safe to say that the animal units, that's about 200,000 pounds of animal units, or animal per acre. And whenever we put them in a tight, packed space, it becomes competitive. If we didn't give you guys lunch and we had 10 fry pies left and we put them in the center of the room, is there going to be some competitiveness to get those last 10 fry pies? You betcha. That's the way it works with cows. They're very, very selfish. They don't have, they don't care about their neighbor. It's all about them when they're out there grazing. So when we put them in a tighter space, and we went as high as 800,000 pounds to the acre. We put them in a tight space, there's competitiveness that goes on, okay? And if we keep them in those tight spaces, like move them 4 times a day, put them in a tight space for 2 days at a time. I realize a lot of folks work off the farm, so it is still possible to teach them, but wait until the weekend to put them in a tight group, move them 4 times a day, put them in super tight, and then whenever you go to work on Monday, just put them back to where you're normally grazing. But you want them tight, and then whenever they're in a weed field, or you guys call them weeds, I call them biodiversity. Whenever they're in those fields, they'll get that competitiveness going. And I've actually, you'll see cows out here trying to take grass out of other cows' mouths. That's how competitive they are. So whenever you bring them back out, once they've learned to eat those species that they normally don't eat, they'll start, they'll say, yeah, that horse nettle, give me a buzz, I'm going to eat more horse nettles. That's what it is, it's hallucinogenic. The sheep are the biggest offenders with that, I think. They'll go out there and they eat those little cherries, you can hear them popping in their mouth, those little horse nettles. So it's pretty neat. But really, it's not a big deal to try and teach your cows. It does take a little bit of time, though. And then once you get them to start eating those, they'll teach their babies and so on and so forth. You know, what's your added value? You know, we need to sit down and figure that out. My added value is in my cattle herd, they're small frame, standard Angus cows. They're going to finish well on grass, and they're tough as nails. That's my added value for my Angus herd. The sheep is the same. We haven't never wormed them. We've never treated for hoof rot. We rarely assist. Occasionally, ewe lambs, we may have to assist with a lamb. And what else haven't we done with our sheep? Trimmed their feet. But I mean, she's got them now where she's feeding them treats, and they're a pain in the neck. This is Emmy when she was a little girl. She's a bigger girl now. She's what, 4 in that picture, I think? 4 or 5?
4 or 5, yeah.
She's 4 or 5. She is moving 160 head of goats with a tree branch. She could take that tree branch and she could move those goats anywhere on the farm she wanted. It was kind of funny, actually. Marketing. A lot of farmers shy away from marketing. If it's a business, we need to, you know, whether we like it or not, it's the lifeblood of your business. There's a lot of different ways of marketing. For me, I have a social media presence. I don't necessarily advertise, but, you know, I try to post daily posts on Facebook. Sometimes it happens. I post at least a weekly video on YouTube. I go out and I talk to farmers, so I have a presence. So I don't actually advertise anything. I did advertise the Green Drill. You know, our mindset, we need to build relationships. We have, like I said, we try to get away from chickens because our customers keep coming back and browbeating us to raise chickens. Hogs, we tried to quit raising hogs this year. We weren't going to raise any hogs. We ended up finishing 8 hogs. The Walker doesn't realize we have 5 sows going to farrow next year, so that's going to be 50 little babies he's got to deal with, not 8. Sound like fun? Communication. I'll follow up. If I sell somebody some cattle, I'm going to follow up one way or another. I'm going to email you. I'm going to call you. I'll text you. A lot of our business is through text. I will follow up with you and make sure those animals are doing well and you're happy and pleased. We already talked about the online presence. You need loyal, consistent customers. Pay without question. You don't want to have to sell to every, you know, we don't sell chicken eggs, but you can get a dozen chicken eggs for $2 a dozen anywhere in this neighborhood. You can buy beef for $2 a pound just about anywhere in this neighborhood. You're going to get our beef for $2 a pound, and we don't sell chicken eggs. But you want that customer that realizes what kind of a product you have. Do you have a good quality product? Are you finishing them the same every time? I don't care if they're underfinished, overfinished, whatever. If you build a client base that like your meat, you want to finish the same every time. So, you know, the guy that sticks his chest out and says, I put more finish on my cows than he does. It doesn't matter. As long as your customers like your product, be consistent. Competitiveness with other farmers, you don't need to be competitive with other farmers. You need to help other farmers out. That's why I do what I do. I try to help you guys lower your inputs and be more profitable. Have a basic website. I say I'm too old to build a website. Website's pretty cheap. $13 a month is what you pay for a website. And I actually talked a gentleman that told me he couldn't build a website. I talked to him over email and phone in Oklahoma, and he built a really nice website in a couple days. And he has no computer savviness about it at all. The computers have become a lot easier to use the further we go. Now, if you're back in the old DOS days and the old Windows, they're problematic. Get an email capturing service. Who here has received a Christmas card from us? You're probably a customer at one time or another. We try to send Christmas cards out to all of our customers. This here's our website, www.russwilson.net. Try to get Wilson Land and Cattle, but the one that doesn't pay his taxes, Virginia already had. So, and that's a true story. IRS checks in with us every year and asks us why we didn't pay our taxes. But it's the Wilson Land and Cattle in Virginia that doesn't pay their taxes. Customer service, education, sell them what they want. You know, what do your customers want? Be yourself, be consistent, generous, authentic, and honest. That's one of my pet peeves. I'll go out and buy something, bring it home, and it isn't what I was wanting to buy. Just so folks could sell a product. You come to my farm, I'm not going to sell you a bred cow just to sell you a bred cow. She's going to be what I say she is. So be honest with your customers. We didn't bring Scout today because it was raining and he'd want to be playing the whole time outside, so I didn't want you guys to get wet. Here's Walker with his pigs. That's this year's pigs he's raised. Emmy helped me with these. This here's an apple tree. That apple tree, grafted apple tree, grew 5 foot in 1 year. How much overhead do you have? This here was a really good day here on the farm, right here. It wasn't a good day for Walker. He was about this tall. He leaned up against the tractor tire and says, Dad, you can't sell this tractor. And he was in tears. So every little kid likes their tractors. Well, the tractor went out the road. He wasn't happy with me, but do you want me to bring the tractors back to the farm? No. I think the kids would rather go without the tractors. You know, don't go buying a bunch of unnecessary things. We have these things called needs and wants. I didn't need that tractor. I didn't need all the equipment, so we got rid of it. And how much do you need to make for a living? We produce approximately 95 to 96% of our food here on this farm. That's a huge savings. And I'm sure a lot of you have your own meat, your own whatever. So that brings, you know, I figured it out. I did a presentation in Tennessee, and it come out that we're saving about $21,000 to $23,000 a year by producing our own food. social media, word of mouth, samples. I have people come in, they'll question me, grass-fed beef tastes terrible, blah, 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 whatever. Here's 2 pounds of hamburger, take it home, you only season it with salt and pepper and put it on the grill, and 9 chances out of 10, they'll be back. Learn modern technology. Like I said, probably 85% of our sales goes through text. I never meet the person until they set foot on the farm, and a lot of times I never meet the person at all. They'll send a driver. Where we shipped that last group of cows? Virginia.
No,
Whatever. We've sent our last group of cows. The last group of cows that we shipped, they never stepped foot on our farm. They trusted what I had to say or what I was selling to them. They sent me a check in the mail, we loaded them up on the trailer, and away they went. And whenever they got there, I told the driver, text me. Whenever they get there, when you back them into the pasture and open the door up. So I can call that customer to make sure he was happy with those cattle that come off that trailer. And most of the time they hop off the trailer. I've had 2 guys tell me this now. Those cows hopped off that trailer and they acted just like they've been here on the farm their whole lives. They don't run to the other end of the pasture. You know, they're nice, quiet animals, and that's contributed to all the movement. You know, in summary, you know, what's your resources? Diversity. Diversity is what's making our farm successful. Some of those enterprises that we have don't make a lot of money, but a little money adds up to be a lot of money. And quality, good quality product goes a long ways, and people talk. You know, I'm not going to sell you a junk cow just to make money. And there's animals that I won't send to the sale or send to the to have processed. They'll end up going to the sale barn, and I'll lose money on them because I won't sell that to you. When everybody's looking for gold, it's a good time to be in the pick and shovel business. You take that as it were. 35 years ago, I sold chicken eggs for $140 to $160 a dozen, shipped them to 40 states in the U.S. They were hatching eggs. So whenever it was hot, that's what I had. I had 25 birds, and it's unbelievable how many dollars 25 birds will make you at $160 a dozen. Would you rather sell 1 dozen at $160, or would you rather sell 80 dozen at $2 a dozen? 1 dozen would be a lot easier. And Y2K, who remembers Y2K? The world was going to come to a crash, and everything was going to stop moving, and it was all real bad. Well, the homesteaders all decided they wanted a family cow. Tell your customer what they want. I went and bought a herd of Dexter cattle. About 3 years prior to that, I could sell every Dexter cow I had for $1,500, 35 years ago. That was good money for Dexter cattle. As soon as Y2K went by and the Dexter market dropped off, I sold that herd of Dexters. Those 10 businesses that failed, that's the source that I got from this. Here's my contact information. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And you can also subscribe to my website as well. We're starting a store on our website. We have the wire clamping poles. We have our valves on there, and we'll be adding mushroom logs and trees as well. We'll be shipping. We have a nursery license. We can ship to anywhere in the United States. We can ship those trees to you.